Hi everyone, I hope that you enjoy your coffee. We are back in Stereopsia Europe here in Brussels to launch the new conference. The new conference, it's about XR in industry. Is it a chimera or is it new opportunities? I think that the panel will try to answer this question, very important question. And to moderate the panel, Louis Dipin is in Paris, it's in remote today. And Louis is managing director of France Immersive Lab and is a specialist of using of XR for in the industry field. If you are there, Louis, I give you the floor.
Yes, hello.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
It's up to you now, Louis. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're sorry to not be able to be there with you, but as you know, we've got some COVID issue in France and everywhere in Europe, so please excuse us. But we are really glad, and I'm talking on behalf of my comrades on the live stream today. We're all really happy to be there with you. And for this panel, we're going to talk about XR and industry. We've got four experts of the field. We've got Jean-Luc Besset from Rockwell Automation, Selma Rizvik from the University of Sarajevo, Frank Gaillard from Alstom University, and Phil Bornstein from XR Plus. So I'm going to give the talk to Frank, and just a quick comment on how it's going to be. We're going to, all of our speakers are going to present what they are doing today for industry with XR technology, and then we'll have a talk and a roundtable around this subject. So Frank, can you join me on the stage? Hello, Frank.
Yeah, I mean...
the floor is yours.
Thank you. I see Rockwell.
No, my bad. It's supposed to be Jean-Luc. It's supposed to be Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc, can you join me on the stage? Sorry, Frank, with your presentation afterwards. It's because we saw Alstom before. I mixed things up. Jean-Luc, can you turn your camera on?
Yeah, so I will try with the camera. I'm not neither in the office, neither at home. So does it work with the camera? I cannot see it now.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Great. So nice to be with you today. And me too, I could not come to Brussels. I'm really sorry about that. I'll try to make the things very quick. We have only 10 minutes. So in a few words, Rockwell, yeah. So Rockwell is a company which is specialized in automation, industry automation, basically, and to provide many kind of different tools and equipment to help companies to automate, but also to manage their production. That's what we are doing. We are about 25,000 people, and you see here, and about 7 billion of turnover. This being said, we really have an experience in many kind of companies. Oops, so I'm not used to Zoom, so maybe I have to go back here. Sorry for this. Yeah, so we really have a scope of any kind of industry, I would say. You can see automotive, chemical, entertainment, fiber. I will not go through all the list, but yeah, we are really involved in many different kind of domains, discrete manufacturing, continuous manufacturing, EOMs, so machine builders, end users, etc. This being said, the goal and what you will see about AR and VR, what we are working on, has how can I say, a target or an objective to really make the things quicker in the industry, to improve the productivity, to better manage the assets, and also to help the companies to manage their risks all in all. So about the industrial augmented reality, you know, I didn't took the XR motto. I kept the old one, I would say, augmented reality, because this is the one which really we can see deployed everywhere at the moment. VR is more for test or for trials yet, but really AR is deployed everywhere. So basically what we know is that the benefits are real. We have a good return of experience now of more than 5 to 7 years, I would say. So we can really improve the repair time. We can improve the service efficiency. We can improve the productivity for training of any kind of people, I would say highly technical technicians or newcomers. We also improve safety, and that's really tangible. And the reason is that basically AR, also VR, of course, and mixed reality, but it's in fact a new kind of interaction with the reality. And this is what really impacts the operations, which means we are overlaying new information on the real world, which really helps in many different situations because it is really intuitive. So which helps the capture of information and the understanding of the information to anyone. It also is very close to the field, which means that this is really dedicated to practical people, to practitioners, and which means that we will, if we improve the efficiency and the capacity or capability of the operators, we really can get a big impact all in all. This being said, a few use cases prior to the business case, which I will go through just after that. Of course, regarding manufacture, the major interest or the major application today is related to work instructions, whatever they are. So it can be related to assembly, manufacturing, but also to maintenance or to production setup or changeovers, for example. We also can use the remote expertise from anywhere. I mean, one factory can be remotely supported by an expert which is elsewhere in the world, which is really useful, especially at this time. All of us, we understand that this was maybe not a major topic 2 or 3 years ago, but now, of course, the remote expertise is really, really in use, I would say, everywhere. Well, regarding service, we basically have the same kind of application, but first, the way to service things. So service instructions are really powerful, really useful. The remote expertise also, as it is for manufacture. And finally, in terms of training, the way to augment the training modules, either with AR or with VR, either remotely or on-site or locally, are really a place where AR can find a lot of application. So there are many other use cases, of course, but here are maybe the most known and the most relevant one still at the moment. But now, in terms of tools, when we are talking about AR and VR, so Rockwell is using a suite which is provided by PTC, which is another company dealing with design tools and product management tools, and especially with the Vuforia suite. So what I will show you later on is based on our experience with Vuforia, and the 4 major tools with Vuforia are the ones which are here. So I will not comment in the detail, but let's say that Expert Capture on the left, bottom left, is a tool where you can really capture the reality and enrich the reality and reuse it for typically training modules or guidance modules. And this can be used, for example, with HoloLens, so mixed reality, or with tablets and phones as augmented reality. And Vuforia Instruct, which is the same kind of tool, but where the AR is built on 3D models rather than on real image. The typical business case, and I made a split between the use cases and the business case because we can only apply when there is really a business case which is efficient and potential. So Example, if you would like, or if you have in mind to modernize your workforce, this is really where AR as remote assistance can help. It's a little bit simplified here, but I think it's good as we are remote. In the modern way, you are really able to call an expert and really interact with him and overlay information from the expert on the reality and then get everything done. You improve collaboration, you can grow your service capability, your service profits, you can ensure better compliance regarding regulation, for example, and also reduce travels. At this time, it's really important. Another example is where you will use AR expert guidance, but not only for service, as we've seen before, but example, when you are setting an FAT. So you are checking a machine, or you are preparing where to set a machine, and you should need to travel a lot and spend a lot of time on site. And now with a remote expert, you are able to do maybe 70% of the FAT remote, and you will save a lot of time, a lot of money, and also you will be more efficient, or you will make things better from the first time. This is really used with expert capture tool, where you can capture the experience, you can enhance the experience with even your customer, and then you can scale it and check what is the final result. I will jump to the next one, where here you can create AR 3D procedures. The difference being with the other tools that here you will not work on real image, but on 3D image, which you will overlay on the reality. So the image recognition is used to overlay reality and 3D models. And then you will enrich your 3D models, will create procedures based on basically CAD data. And this is this other way, which is also very efficient, which is maybe more for machines and related to engineering than pure production. This being said, what you will get here is that you will be able to reuse your 3D models. You will really get scalability, a very easy scalability, and you are able to create AR sequences which are very accurate and which can really overlay on the reality, sometimes even better than when you are working only with real image. This being said, I'm really very quick. I could talk hours about that. And I, of course, many other business case and use case could be discussed, but I try to draw a little of perspective here. Clearly, there was a question at the beginning of this conference, so I gave my answer. Yes, there is a bright future for augmented reality, for mixed reality, for virtual reality also in the future. And because some examples here, work instructions will become very different in the future. They will become hands-free. You will be able to manage knowledge in a very efficient and very, how can I say, basic manner, very easy manner, and you will be able to share that experience without having any language problem, for example, writing problems or difficulties, etc. You will be able to use remote expertise everywhere and at any time. You will be able to deploy AR training everywhere also, and very, very efficient, honestly. And finally, as a way to create content and to produce this content will be really a way to transfer knowledge really more efficient. And the experience we have today is that dealing with proper industrial companies and industrial part of the companies, AR already shown that we can improve the global efficiency by about 20 to 40% in many cases. Not everywhere, of course, but in very, very many use cases. That's nearly my conclusion. Yes, we can improve operational efficiency and reduce costs. We really reduce complexity and we enable scalability with AR and VR. and we can really improve also the quality and the productivity. So this is our experience really for the last 5 years at least. And to explain my conclusion, yes, from my point of view, it's really a bright future that we can foresee for AR and VR and mixed reality. Hard to close such a talk remotely, but I'm done. So I think now it's the turn to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have many questions, and I hope we've got many questions in the room as well. And those questions will be answered after all the talks, so that we have a discussion about all subjects. So now I'm going to welcome Selma Rizvik to the stage. She's at Brussels. So Selma, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Let me just move to the stand.
So, and the floor is yours.
Yes, I hope I will get my slides soon. So I will just use the opportunity to thank the IT team because they were very helpful with my videos. And I will also hope everything will be smooth. So I will, until the slides come, yes, okay. So I'm Selma Rizvik, I'm a professor of computer graphics at the University of Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I will talk about our experience in XR for cultural heritage. So we have founded a lab called Sarajevo Graphics Group in 2004 at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering in University of Sarajevo. We are computer scientists. I have a PhD in computer graphics, but I was working actually for 26 years at the Bosnian Radio Television as a broadcast designer, so I kind of combine art and science in our work. We discovered during the years that these projects cannot be done without expertise of many interdisciplinary experts such as film and video professionals, artists, archaeologists, sound designers, costume designers. And in order to gather them all together, also formally, we founded an NGO called digi.ba, and we have our projects online on there and the laboratory websites. Our projects are divided in 3 large groups. They are cultural heritage virtual reconstructions of heritage that cannot be seen anymore, especially not in the original form. It's destroyed, neglected, and so on. Then we are working a lot with museums, enhancing museum exhibitions with digital content, and also we have been producing VR movies since 2 years. We have 2 short documentaries in VR on YouTube. I would like to ask now David or his group to play the first video. Okay. Sorry?
Green, but
Okay. this was just a glimpse in our work, and you can see our projects online also on the website of the laboratory. We have been invited in several European projects, out of which the most important was Aymara Culture. It was a Horizon project, and the lady from the Commission also presented some images from our projects. In the first day, I was so happy to see it. So we are very small groups from a small country, but thanks to our expertise, we are proud to say that we have been part of some European consortiums because we are doing interactive digital storytelling, and we are using actors in our virtual and augmented reality applications. Now I will focus on a case study. Briefly, it is about the battle on Neretva VR. The battle on Neretva was a famous battle from the Second World War. It happened close to a place called Jablanica in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it was one of the crucial battles for Yugoslav partisan army to win over the enemies. And there is a bridge that was destroyed next to the museum that keeps memories on the battle. Of course, the museum experience is largely enhanced by making the users, the visitors of the museum, able to participate in the battle through VR. We developed a VR application where the user can join the battle, destroy the bridge, destroy some enemy planes, and meet Comrade Tito, that was the commander of Yugoslav partisans. How we did the application, we combined the VR video scenes recorded by 360 camera with actors, with gameplays, where we have the commander at first in the headquarters giving direction to the user what to do and explaining the context of the battle, and then if the user answers correctly some questions asked by the commander, because we also want to motivate the users to learn something while experiencing this application, then he or she can go into gameplay and finish the tasks. At the end, if it's successful, the user has the opportunity to be thanked by the commander and to meet Comrade Tito. So instead of talking about this application, I will play the trailer and you will be able to see how it looks like. It was a part of the cross-border project IPA Interesting Museums.
Bitka na Neretvi, ili još poznatija kao bitka za ranjenike, je zajednički naziv za seriju bitaka u dolini rijeke Neretve u periodu od februara do marta 1943. godine između partizanskih jedinica i sila osovine. Jugoslovenska historija tu bitku naziva četvrta kvislinško-okupatorska ofanziva, a neprijatelj je izvodio pod nazivom Operacija Vajs. Tvoj zadatak je da razvučeš kabel od detonatora do sigurnog zaklona i čekaš moj znak za dizanje mosta u zrak. Improvizovani most će uskoro da bude napravljen, međutim Nemci su počeli da sumnjaju da nešto nije u redu. U tu svrhu imam novi zadatak za tebe. Bravo! Oborio si treći avion! Okret! Prelazimo Neretvu! Preko vode do slobode!
Dobili smo bitku i spasili ranjenike. Naš cilj je ostvaren. Čestitam.
So this application is installed in the museum, and curators are helping the visitors to deal with the application and to handle it. And this is a short overview how we made it. Of course, we first collected information from the curators, then we made some 3D modeling of the bridge, the environment, the props. Then we did the costumes design, composed the music, made some set design for the actors, filmed the actors, made some Unity programming, and at the end we implemented it in VR and also a part of it on the web, and then we tested it and trained the museum curators. So to conclude, I can say that the user experience showed that it was above all our expectations, how the users were excited and satisfied. At first, us Bosnians who always visit with schools this museum because it is a part of our history, it's a very important battle, and then also the foreign visitors because the application is also available in English. And it really shows very much the potential of XR technologies for cultural heritage and for the museums. The museum people are very happy. They have the equipment. They have 2 headsets now with this application. And every day the viewers, some of the visitors come just to see this application. And of course they have the possibility also to learn about the battle and visit the museum. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope to answer some questions if you will have them. Louis?
Thank you, Selma, for this presentation. It's nice to see some cultural application in our world of steel and concrete as industrial leaders. And I'm sure we've got plenty of synergy between those 2 fields, and I'm looking forward to wander around them during the roundtable afterwards. So now, if I'm not mistaken, this time it's Frank. Please join me up on the stage. I think it's your turn.
Good, thank you.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Louis, for giving me the floor. Yeah, so I would start with saying a few words in regard to Alstom company. So this is a leader in the transportation system industry. You're maybe familiar with high-speed trains from Alstom, subways systems. So we are comprised of 75,000 employees across 70 countries, and with a 15 billion turnover. So it's quite a large company, and we have been using XR in many areas. Actually, it's true that if we ask this question, is the use of XR in the industry a chimera? Actually, the chimera is living and living quite well. It's already used in many areas of our activities for all companies in the industry, mainly for, in our case, for project reviews, for customer presentations, digital twins. We use, of course, augmented reality for remote expertise, for instance. We use XR as in the area of simulations, and especially for drivers, for instance. And it's, of course, that we use it for our training activities. But the question with regard to, is it a chimera or is it that the XR has a bright future, is a very relevant question, because even if XR has been used a lot in the industry, it still remains an expert matter. It's quite confidential for the moment, and limited to a limited part of the population in the industry. And the question with regard to the fact that is it a chimera, or is it that XR has a bright future, it really depends on us. So I will focus on training-related use of XR, because I'm in charge of learning and development for Alstom Group. And I will do it through giving you feedback with regard to what has been done in the corporate university of Alstom, which is named Alstom University. So just telling you a few words about the history and the evolution of our learning and development activities at Alstom and through the Alstom University. We've been implementing since 2016 a digital learning ecosystem, which we wanted to be at AWADAC, very visual, interactive, but with content available anytime, anywhere, through any device and any content. Totally responsive, of course, and we wanted to go up to this level that we would be able, for instance, to give access to the entire population of Alstom to virtual reality content for learning purpose. We wanted to implement a digital learning ecosystem that would enable people to learn and share their expertise at the scale of the company. And we've been quite successful in a sense that after a few years, we, for instance, last year have trained 51,000 people during the year with the corporate university through 70 countries and mobilizing 750 expert trainers. So it's not that we only deliver digital content through e-learning modules, but of course, virtual classes and the use of digital has enabled us to ensure continuity of our activities, especially learning activities, during this terrible period we've been through over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. We've been successful from a concrete perspective, but also we got awarded by different organizations like the Brandon Hall Excellence Award, which is somehow the Emmy Awards of the Human Capital Management, both for the best launch of the corporate university, but also for the best use of virtual worlds in the domain of learning. And we got more recently awarded Best Corporate University by the Global Council of Corporate Universities. If I move further, we very recently have increased the volume of effort, of course, over the last 2 years, especially in turning courses into webinars, leveraging very interactive tools, so to make this virtual experience of delivering training at a distance an enjoyable experience, converting courses into MOOCs, into e-learning modules sometimes, but also leveraging extended reality in learning for the sake of improving the experience of people in different situations. Like situations that require a lot of interactions, social events, team building sessions, and so on, but also in the domain of technical trainings. And for this part, we are continuing the effort because even if we have been quite successful in ensuring the continuity of training activities over the last years, we see also that it's really necessary to make remote training sessions particularly satisfactory for people, which is not necessarily always the case. And this requires to maximize interactions, to turn former ways of training into new ways of training, and especially leveraging new technologies. On this particular point, I would say that we are exploring now different areas, like the use of XR for, of course, all what's related to instructional activities like technical training, classroom training, serious games, but all of that at a distance, leveraging virtual worlds and potentially metaverse. And also in the area of social interactions, like organizing virtual events, conferences, and meetings. So this is the area in which we are putting a lot of effort these days in order to explore new ways of working and to implement the use of XR at a much higher level. However, we have had some very interesting success through the use of virtual reality at scale with a partner which is Uptel especially, which enabled us to give to all our employees through the digital learning ecosystem in place in the company to virtual reality content related to EHS, operations, and site induction, virtual site visits, well-being also related content. And more recently, diversity and inclusion related content, enabling people to put themselves in the shoes of disabled people, for instance. So the use of virtual reality has become a potential reality for a lot of people across the organization. And if I'm focusing on this experience, it's because it's really the core of the concern when it comes to the generalization of the use of XR in the industry. We are facing this several issues so that people really appropriate and use it at scale, at very large scale, this very impactful solution which are provided by extended reality. I do not come back on the interest there is in using extended reality. I'm sure the entire audience is already convinced that it's very useful. And if you see the time you save in training people while leveraging these technologies, both in terms of impact you have, but also in terms of the time that's really saved, because it's so much faster to teach things through virtual reality, especially, or even more sometimes with augmented reality, that it's very clear that it has to be embraced and adopted much more by people in the industry. But it's still difficult for several reasons. And in that case, for instance, we've managed to make it available for all. However, remain some limitations, which I would like to address with you. And I would say, of course, that there is a limitation which is connected with the cost of the devices, because I told you all employees have access to virtual reality content on the digital learning ecosystem. Yes, but unfortunately, they frequently use it with laptops or in some cases with a smartphone that they put in a cardboard, and which is not the best experience. Whereas the same platform can very well be used by using codes that you put in your VR headset, and then you live the experience directly. And you can learn out of it. But first limitation is the cost of devices, precisely in the perspective of making it available for all employees. There is also a limitation which is connected to the XR acumen. Actually, most people are not aware really of what's related to virtual reality, augmented reality, probably connected with the consequence of the cost of the devices. But things are changing, of course. But still today in the industry, most people have never really experienced extended reality. So this is really an area of improvement, and we have to address, and we are working on it with associations and partners, especially in France, for instance, with France Immersive Learning. And we are progressively making progress, but there is still a huge room for improvement in terms of appropriation of the associated technologies to XR. Among the limitations, there are more technical limitations related to the creation of content and experiences. We still would need more user-friendly and easy-to-use authoring tools. We would need also to have access more easily to large banks of 3D models we would be able to use in order to build these experiences. So of course, we can use 3D models that come from our engineering activities, but when it comes to environments and creating original experience, sometimes we are struggling. And it's also that these tools, most of them, they come from countries like US or Asia, China, and it's very difficult to get access to platforms that would be really compatible with European norms and regulations, either because there is not enough platforms that are created by European companies, or also because norms are not applied. So to make sure that the tools that you can buy on the market respect the European norms and regulations. And device management systems is also a concern for the same reasons, because we need to make sure that we respect some rules in Europe, like the data privacy related rules, for instance. But the concern is that today the tools that are available are usually not responding to this critical need, coming from regions of the world that do not respect the same rules. However, solutions exist, and we are now putting in place one of them, which is provided by the Immersive Learning Lab, which is called the CASE system, that enables us to manage our devices without going through systems that would not respect the European regulations, for instance. So this is it for me. I wanted to share with you the concerns. So clearly, it's not a chimera. The use of XR in industry, it's been used for long. But if we want to make sure that XR have a bright future, what is really necessary for the competitiveness of the companies in the industry, it really depends on us, and especially with support from the European Union organization, because all these issues are still to be tackled in our region of the world. So back to you, Louis.
Thank you, Frank, for the presentation. Yes, you brought many interesting subjects, and I'm looking forward for the roundtable part so that we can dive deeper on those. So next up is going to be Philippe Bornstein. Philippe, can you join me?
Do you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hello, Philippe. Floor is yours.
Okay, good. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Stereopsia, to give me this opportunity. So let's go for a short presentation about what we do. I've created 2 years ago a company called the Lucid Dreams Company, and we are providing a tool, a platform to create immersive experience, to create the metaverse of brands. So we are mainly on B2C services, through agencies, through creators, through developers, through organizations. And we have different specificities to create those experiences, which are immersive, interactive, and social. So those disruptions we are bringing in the market are very important for our point of view. First is to be a no-code studio. More than a no-code, where you can create your experience in minutes, in hours, instead of hours, not using developers, so you don't need to have any knowledge about JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and all this. You just drag and drop your content, you upload them, you create scenes, you define the tracker on what do you want to track and to anchor the experience for AR, or is it VR, and it's browser-based, to create the experience, but also to publish them. So everything is web-based, no app to download for user, no app to develop, no app to homologate through stores. So that's a very important point. And because there is no app for user to be downloaded before access to the experience, it's definitely something 3 billion smartphones in the year can access in one click, because it's a web page at the end. Web page for AR, web page for VR, web page for metaverse solutions. So it's also browser-based, so by nature it's compatible with any device, not only the smartphones, but laptop, tablet, computers, smart glasses. We just need to have an internet connection and to have a web browser. And all those devices by nature have something like that. So we are a small company. We are working generally with agencies or creators based worldwide. They access to the platform. They create their accounts. It's even for free to make a trial account. And we have a disruptive business model because it costs 100 euros per month to begin. After, you can buy additional options, you can buy more traffic if you want, because everything we do is based on CPM, which is a format of video online, for example. You pay according to your traffic. You don't pay to create the video itself. Okay? So that's the main point of XR Plus. And of course, it's solutions dedicated for many purposes. Not really for, let's say, I would say simulation, maintenance, or training of employees, even if it could be used for, and some of our customers are doing it for that. But because it's web-based, it's definitely something relevant for marketing, for e-commerce, for events, for communication of brands, and for advertising. You can put a 3D player on a banner, and from this, you can play in 3D into the banner and switch to augmented reality to see the product in the real life. So to showcase and to explain a little bit some of the usage, in fact, you can scan the QR code from where you are. There is nothing to download, and you have access immediately to the experience. So the first one is this black bag, to create what we call in this industry the virtual try-on, to facilitate decision of purchase, simulation. You can change the color, you can place it on the floor, you can place it on any flat surfaces, change the color, play with it, configure it, and of course it's facilitating a lot the decision of purchase for end user, for consumers, but also less return, because you see and you validate, you try before you buy. Of course, it's very innovative also for brands to use this kind of stuff. And for our perspective, all the web will move from 2D, where we have images and video, moving to 3D. On the top of that, we use artificial intelligence to create 3D models based on pictures. This is not anymore an issue, with some advanced technologies to be able to deploy, to create those 3D models at scale using artificial intelligence. The second project experience is something very innovative also, where, according to what I said, tomorrow we will see the world in 3D, like in the real life. And this is very important to give possibility and proximity with other people in the digital space. So of course, we can be through an avatar in the metaverse or into an experience, but I would say that in the real life, we appreciate to see our face, to see our capabilities to exchange and to share emotion. So if you scan the second QR code, you will see that this guy is a volumetric video. It's a stream of a 3D model, dynamic, shoot in a specific studio, a 360 studio, to have the character, it's a real character, in your space, anchor on the floor, for example, and it's a stream, like a video stream, but a volumetric stream. Among him, I've placed different 3D objects through the studio. You can create the scenes, and of course, you can interact with all the interactions you could imagine. The third experience here is very also innovative for many aspects. For mediation, for personal coaching, beauty advisor, whatever you can imagine. It's a photorealistic actor, but created through artificial intelligence. So you just type your text in the language you want. And if you scan this QR code, you will see that there is 6 languages here. Everything, again, is web-based. She's speaking 40 languages, so you decide the language, you decide the accent. In French, you have the Canadian accent, you have the French accent, you have the Belgium accent. It's very, very funny. And you can place it into any augmented reality experience or VR experience. It's a 2D here content where we use alpha blending to remove the background of the experience, and it costs almost nothing to create those avatars, photorealistic, to create this proximity that we need in the digital world. A short video about what we do, so I guess I have to play. How do I play it? Green button, okay. Okay, so I move to the next one. Well, doesn't matter. It's a video about the concept where we are doing. So now, how to make those experiences social? Again, web-based. You can penetrate into a virtual environment. So here it's something I've presented last week at Tech for Retail in Paris, a live shopping experience. You know, now you can engage with your consumer, with your prospect through a live event. So you will go there into a 3D place where, unlike Zoom where you have only your face, here you can move into the content. It's a web page, and from this place, you can scan the QR code, you can visit the place, select the product, and see them in 3D, in augmented reality, in your environment to facilitate the decision. Okay, so that's perfectly adapted for shopping, but also for webinar, also for training, for tourism, museum. I mean, the possibilities to engage, to interact with others, with the presenters, with the objects, and with the space are making something very engaging for end user, very relevant for brands and organization. The other one is to use your smartphone as a universal scanner. So not only you can recognize and read QR code, but also you can recognize images using your smartphone and reading also barcode. So again, the idea here is to transform each point of contact between the brand and the product and the user into an emotional, immersive experience. Using smartphones, of course, because people have smartphones everywhere and in their pocket all the time. So other type of experience, here it's more based on a 360 image where you can visit corners, flagships. Of course, you can place the flagship on the ground and visit the place, walking into it. The last one is you visit a 3D place and you see different avatars. It could be a web flow, a web stream of cameras. It could be through an avatar you select. You just define your avatar through player randomly, and you are there. Okay? So no point of friction. That's definitely what we try to deliver through immersive, interactive, and humanized experience. That's why we go on something much more realistic than just avatars. Unlike, let's say, the metaverse Facebook is expected to create, where we could have our life, a second life. Here, the concept we try to push for brands is to be in the free world, in the web browser, so outside of the social network, but also using the social network for promotion and facilitating end user to go out of those walled garden to engage directly with end users for brands, merchant, organization, and so on. That's it regarding me. So now, of course, is it a chimera or is it a reality? XR, for our point of view, definitely through the capabilities to engage with a browser, with nothing specific, with almost no cost, based on traffic, we see the big perspective of developing and democratization of those XR formats. Not only for organization, but also for user-generated experience. Because like a video, if you look after how the video has been successful in the last 10 years, it's because also end users have created user-generated content. Today, this is something feasible also to provide to the end user through their smartphones the capabilities to create those experiences and share them with their friends. Again, browser-based, nothing to download, immediate access, no point of friction. There is no doubt, and if you look after the Super Bowl in the US last year, almost a year ago, in January, 5 of the advertisement during the Super Bowl was a web AR advertising. So we'll see next year, but this is becoming a mainstream format not to deliver content linear like a video, but to provide an experience to user where not only they can see, they can watch, they can listen, but they can interact, they can penetrate, they can communicate into the experience, which deliver much more time in the experience, much more intention, much more engagement. And we will see in the future, that's my thought, that the format of XR will be like the video one, something used for so many purposes, and it will definitely change the way we communicate to each other. That's my thought and my vision of the future. It will take time. It will take time because we need to educate, we need to evangelize. It has to be very adequate and very good quality. Of course, 5G will facilitate a lot that. And from, let's say, experience where usually we are almost alone, except in VR, the future with 5G, with no latency, with high bandwidth, will be much more, again, with no point of friction, and we will be several to share the experience in real time. And so to combine and to spend a bigger, larger, more immersive experience deployed at scale. So 5G will be a game changer in that perspective. And if you look after what's going on in Japan, in Korea, or even in China, huge penetration of this aspect of playing together in the metaverse is becoming very important for brands with a lot of speculation and using XR format for combining this metaverse with NFT. So we receive a lot of requests at the moment to do that, especially in Asia, by the way. So it's bringing a new kind of business model, interesting for this XR format. Thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate. I can provide some additional information during the question and answer panel.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you all for your presentation. So we are going to start the roundtable. If everyone can be on the screen, it would be perfect. And we are going to take questions from the room to augment that roundtable as well. So just to start the discussion, what I heard during your presentation is XR industry has a bright future, but for now it's a chimera regarding massive usage, because that's what we're talking about. We have seen a lot of really great deployment. We've seen really great application, and now the entire question is, how do you get on scale? So to start this discussion about large-scale deployment, because this is the place where we are today, and Frank said earlier that XR industry is not new, and yes, it started in 1990 with cave system, and I think everyone around here knows what those are. So I would like to start with a question for Jean-Luc, and then everyone can, of course, get on the questions and give answers. Jean-Luc, you said you're working at Procol Automation with Vuforia, and you're using a lot of AR for maintenance and production activities, which is a great use case. I was wondering, what kind of hardware were you using for your AR application, and why did you choose Vuforia?
So Vuforia is suite of softwares. There are about 7 or 8 softwares available now for AR and VR, all in all, from PTC. So each of these software have a different configuration. Some are pure SaaS, otherwise are cloud-based but can be on-premise, and others are purely on-premise. That's one reason for the choice. But ourselves we are using, but also we are selling and deploying these tools to our own customers. So we are using PTC as a technology provider there. So yeah, apart from the devices, I would say the first point is how the software will be managed. And this is why the cloud and SaaS solutions are at the moment preferred, I would say, while the on-site and on-premise solutions are less and less used. One thing. Second, it depends on the kind of images or models that you will get. So, to be said in another manner, it depends if you want to interact with the reality only, or if you want to interact with a 3D model, which you will position in the reality. So that's the second criteria that you will use to choose a tool. And then the question of the hardware is the third question only, and not the first one, in fact. So each of the tools have different hardware available. Because some of the tools are more useful or more devoted to HoloLens or equivalent glasses, for example. Others are more used with tablets. So it's hard to give you a very precise answer, but I would say if you need something, first you have to analyze your use case. And depending on the use case, you will choose the hardware. Example, if in a maintenance activity, you need the operators to be hand-free, so they really need their two hands to work, then it's better to have HoloLens or other tools. But in some cases, the operators will like to have like a tablet, so not to be hand-free. They will prefer that because their problem, they want to interact more with the screen, I would say. And therefore, you don't really need HoloLens or equivalent. So it's not a straight answer, but it's really, we need first to analyze the use case, and then we can give an answer to each of our customers and each of the use cases.
Oh, of course. Yes, and the use case act is the one we need to address in order to be able to go large scale. I had a question for all of you. Is why the thing you did with XR technology worked? Why were you able to deploy, and what holded you back during that time?
Yeah, if I can step in. I would say that it worked because, especially when it comes to the implementation of the Uptel solution in our learning ecosystem, it worked in a sense that it was aligned with the overall strategy because, the end we have in mind is to really anchor this learning and knowledge sharing culture across the organization. So to making sure that everybody across the organization would be able to share one's expertise with others on the point of the need, because we have to address complex projects and on the go of the project, people might face issues and they would need to learn something from others potentially, or from learning content available elsewhere. And the general objective was precisely this one, making sure that we would have an ecosystem that would really enable people to, at the point of the need, be able to either learn or to share their expertise respectively. And for this to happen, we needed solutions that would be accessible to everybody with this typical Ottawa-DAC principle at any time, from anywhere, through any device, but also that anybody would be able also to create content, because we cannot count simply on 10, 15, 50 happy few to create content for 75,000 people would be satisfactory at the point of the need in the course of their project. So the possibility for experts especially, but for anybody across the organization to create content on their own and to make it available through a digital ecosystem that would be accessible to all was a key lever of success in this context.
Thank you.
Just to...
Selma.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Philippe.
regarding why it works, for us, it works because it's based on a browser, so there is no app, and it's a web page. So by nature, all the devices, and especially the smartphones, but all the devices are working with browser. and there is no bug free. And after the facility to move, to experiment, to adjust the experience, because it's a web page, it just takes 1 second to validate, to test, to simulate, and that's it. So you can do real-time optimization of the experience to satisfy the end user expectations as well as the brand's expectation. So that's the beauty of the no-wait approach, no need for developers, real-time interactions.
Okay. For us, it worked because only VR can present something that cannot be experienced in reality. For example, if you have a bridge and the people are jumping from the bridge, only the professionals, trained professionals, how a normal person can afford to jump from that bridge? There is no way, but in virtual reality, everybody can try, and it's also quite realistic. People who are afraid of height, they are also afraid of height in virtual reality, but that makes it even more exciting. In this example that I mentioned at the beginning, how you can experience a battle that happened 50 years ago, only through virtual reality. In Sarajevo, we had a siege for 3.5 years, and we dug a tunnel in order to survive. Now the tunnel is closed because it was under the airport runway, and only 20 meters are open for the public within the museum. The only way to experience how it was to pass through the tunnel during the war is through virtual reality. So I think that this is a fantastic opportunity. Also augmented reality, we did some things with the buildings that do not exist anymore in reality, but something else was built on that place. And when you go to the location, you can see on your mobile device the object that was there before the building that you see around you. And the main problem for us was the funding, because our museums in Bosnia and Herzegovina cannot afford to buy VR setups. So only if there is a project that helps the museum, some European or general, some funding, which is not a normal funding for the museum, they can afford the equipment. And our intention is now to draw the attention of the authorities to provide one setup for each museum, because if they have one setup, they can play as many applications as they are available. We have, for example, for the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina, 5 applications already finished, but they cannot play it because they have no setup. And for a museum, it's a few thousand euro with the computer, with everything. When you think of it, it's not much, but if a museum is struggling with funding, then for them it's something that is not really affordable.
Okay. Jean-Luc, would you like to add something?
Sorry. No, I think everything was said. I think we need to take into account the flexibility, the modularity of the tools to be able to adapt to each need. It's basically what has been said before. We have to properly manage the devices and get enough funding. That's true that in some public bodies, I would say, including the museum, sometimes there is an issue with the hardware, because it needs to be managed in a proper way, to be cleaned, to be updated from time to time. So it's an issue for sure. But I think from the tools perspective, we have now a lot of tools available, either on the web, either, as I said before, on-premise or SaaS. So I think now there are no limits. I think every kind of entity or company or body can find the tool and deploy something. But of course, practically speaking, there still are some limitations.
Yeah, of course. So I wanted to push a little bit forward during on the subject of modularity, because it's true we've got problem of funding, MDM, we've got problem of hygiene. It's especially true now, but it was true before. It's going to be true after. You've got some initiative like in France with Alstom, with the Association for Special Learning. We did a white book with hospitals in order to create a process of cleaning for and in a session in order to have something smooth for people. But those initiatives need to go further, I agree, and they need to be front and European as well. But I wanted to ask you a question about the modularity of experiments. If we take a diverse solution, you can exploit the simulation on a smartphone, on a laptop, or on a headset. But we know that the way of telling a story is not the same when it comes to the device. If we look at an immersive film or a brand experiment or training through a smartphone, it was designed for a headset, won't we miss a bit of what was supposed to go through? And how can we properly use those solutions that are great for mass deployment, because everyone can access the contents that are made and it not remain confidential, as Frank said earlier, and all the collaborators of a group can actually practice with this environment that is created. But won't we have a problem because they can't see everything and can't experiment the experience the way it was supposed to be experimented?
Maybe I can take it from our point of view.
Sure.
Definitely an experience in AR has a different approach from the same experience or the same content in VR. Because there is a big difference. Augmented reality is based on the reality by nature, so it uses the camera of the device, where virtual reality is not. So if you want to combine this reality with the content you're going to display, digital content, of course, the story is different, the storytelling is different, the interactions are different. So in the studio XR Plus, at the beginning of the project, you define if the content is going to be used for augmented reality, and you define the experience for augmented reality. You can take the same content, the same digital content for virtual reality, and of course the interaction will be a little bit different. So yes, it's a different experience, it's a different storytelling.
If I may also add to Philippe, I think that it's, of course, you can choose the format for yourself to use the same content. What can be also done, maybe for our particular application, is that we use the same content, but we use it in a way that it complements each other. For example, if we have a Roman heritage in the Balkans application that is recreating Roman heritage through these technologies, first, we use web page as a kind of teaser for a certain amount of content that we release through web. Then we motivate people to go to location and see the reconstructions of the remains that they see around them through augmented reality. And then we motivate them to go to the museum and put on the headset and see the full experience in virtual reality. So I think that's maybe for this particular application, but it's a way how to use all advantages of all formats, but not at the same time.
Yeah, I may complement with saying that there is the very same situation in the context of learning, because the best way to learn, it's very clear for everybody, it's on the job, and while practicing, while doing things, and then being corrected potentially. And the concern is that in the teaching situations, when it comes to teaching professional activities, we used to move backward from this real life situation, from this on-the-job situation, because there is a risk potentially for people who are not yet competent. There is also potential risk in terms of cost, because the material would be broken if people do not respect the rules or things like that. So we move backward, and moving backward and backward and backward, we start teaching in a classroom, and which is clearly not as effective as doing things on the job. And this is precisely where the use of these new technologies and virtual reality, augmented reality is so interesting, because you can come much closer to the real life situation, much closer to the on-the-job situation, whereas you don't take risk, You can avoid that. You don't take risks even in terms of breaking any material. And suddenly, people learn much faster. But we face again another issue, which is that we probably don't own enough devices so to equip everybody and then make it available for all. And then we move again backward using smartphones, using laptops, using tablets, etc. And we face again the same issue. So that's precisely this kind of issue that has to be tackled if we want this virtual reality, augmented reality solutions to have a bright future in Europe.
In Rockwell or at Rockwell, the way we are addressing the point is a little bit different. So we are working with customers or potential customers, and what we are doing, we are running a value analysis of the use cases that the customer has in mind, and so we are using our own experience and expertise for that. And we are going through a bunch of the use cases that the customer may have. Example training, we may go through 20 different kind of training modules that the customer would like to consider. And based on the value we can attach to each of these use cases, when we apply mixed reality or virtual reality, then we will advise the customer to only choose the use cases where the value or the return on investment is very high. And then we work on the practicability of the AR experience for this particular use case. So let's say in the example of our colleagues from Alstom, among 20 or 100 training modules, we will only choose 2 or 3 where the value is. And then here we will build a strategy regarding the hardware, regarding the stuff, regarding the scenarios to be developed for the training, the practicability of the training modules, and then we would deploy only on these ones, and we will forget about the others, which may be very interesting, but which would maybe not bring enough value to justify a deep investment or a deep deployment at first, maybe later on, but not at the beginning. So this is, I would not say it can help for everything, but this is a way we can really choose from the beginning the most interesting use cases and then build the deployment strategy from the beginning. So not after we have the virtual reality experience built, but before. And that helps to be to really get a high level of return on investment first, which is of course important in industry, but also to get a higher impact in terms of deployment or applicability of the module which has been created.
Okay. Thanks for your answer. I'm going to have one last question, I think, because time is running out. Okay, so the main topic we've all discussed about it is bright future or chimera. What do we need? And it's going to be hard for the last one because I'm going to ask you one topic from each of you. What do we need so that it's going to be a bright future and not a chimera for our subjects? Who wants to go first?
I really believe it's a combination, so that's a very difficult question. But if there is one I want to address immediately, especially in my personal context, is increasing the awareness of people with regard to these technologies, because clearly we are facing a lot of issues. So to foster the adoption and the deployment of these solutions in the industry. But all of them converge, from my perspective, towards the lack of understanding, the lack of familiarity with regard to this technology. People do not see, among those who decide on investment, for instance, they don't necessarily see the benefit, the impact, to which extent for which we should extend the use of extended reality. But it's also that people with whom you use these technologies and to whom you propose to live learning situations in virtual headset, they most of the time discover real virtual reality headset. And I believe this is at least this is the one I want to address at first, really to maximize the adoption, the understanding, the use of these technologies by people. And I'm sure afterwards things will go faster because there will be much more attractiveness of these solutions for everybody, and then more energy invested in generalizing the use of XR.
Okay, thank you.
I think that we need to encourage the public administration and the institutions that are making decisions in creating study programs for schools. For example, this area has huge potential in education in schools, especially younger population. They are not reading anymore. They are all the time on the phones, on the digital devices, to offer them some good quality content in a good way. So we need to penetrate to the decision makers in the ministries to enhance the cultural tourism that can be done only through these technologies, because we can everywhere advertise our heritage, our attractions, and then motivate people to come and see them in a physical way. So I think that would really open the door for us to become really an industry and to have these technologies in all areas of life.
Okay, thank you.
I think first, what we are talking about exists already and has a huge usage. It's not called augmented reality, it's not called virtual reality, but it's called filters. And this happens on social networks where people are every day spending a lot of time, especially teenagers, millennials. So we need to change the vocabulary in some perspective because augmented reality, virtual reality are just acronyms and nobody really is able to define what it is. The additional element I want to mention about how to democratize is not to use it for the technology, but for the value of the usage. So how to create value on those usage. After the wow effect, that's the first experience we have, is it really creating something irreplaceable, incalculable, that I will use again because it facilitates my life, it's saving me time, or it's saving the planet, or I have a better capabilities to communicate with others and to be happy or to have more efficiency. So using the technology for using of the technology, I think has not real value. It has to be for the value perceived by the end user. Inadequacy also inadequation with the brands or the organization who are going to promote and to propose the experiences.
Okay, thank you. Jean-Luc?
Yes, totally agree. This is a matter of value. If there is really value around the technology and around the experience, then we will find a way to apply, I think, and also to extend the usage or to deploy. When we are dealing with applications or use cases where there is very little value, maybe there will be a wow effect. I'll totally follow you. But after that, nothing will really happen. So it's really important to position the technology at the right time and at the right place and on the right use cases. And then the value will come, and then the applicability will appear as a kind of evidence, because the value of mixed reality is so high, you can really get a so high return on investment, all in all, that when it is really at the right place, then I would say the usage is really wide.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So, Anna, you asked us if we could have some subjects that could be treated by an association. You've got three there: create value, make awareness of subjects in population, and support from states and Europe. That are three keys. I'll have mine if you like. I think that with all that has been said, we need to work as a collaboration. We need to talk to each other a lot through association, through other type of structure as well, so that we can create awareness and value. Because we all do stuff, we all try out XR technology, and we all have success and failure. And we need to share that with everyone so that we can make that ecosystem work and grow as a group and as an ecosystem. And I think it's that growth that will help us impact widely the organizations and faster. Because we said it a bit during this conversation. We talked a bit about Facebook. We talked about European regulation concerning data, for example. And those subjects are going to be true in XR, and it's going to be true everywhere, in France, in Europe. And we need to be able to stand up for ourselves as a continent regarding foreign interests, and be able to manage our own XR production and XR contents if we want them to be able to be deployed inside massive and large organizations. And if we want to have an ethic usage of those technology, as Selma said it, for school, for museum, we need to be able to produce those content ourselves. So I say long live association, long live collaboration, and let's make the ecosystem grow together. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure doing this talk with you. Our time is now up. Thank you for joining me. Once again, I'm sorry to not be able to be there in person, and I think Frank and Jean-Luc are sharing the same sentiment. Thank you, Selma and Philippe, for being there for us, and thank you for everyone that listened to this talk. I hope you found some value. We talked a lot about value. I hope you found value in this talk.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Bye. We are going to give it